first step for doing your tie-dye project is to make sure that you pre-wash your items. This is going to remove the sizing, which is like a substance that's put in the shirts to affect how it absorbs. So if you pre-wash it, you'll be able to remove some of that substance so that the dyes are going to absorb better. As you saw in my video, I decided to not dry my shirts right after because I was going to go right into dyeing them. And I'm going to be soaking these in a little bit anyway, so I decided to just leave it wet as I'm doing my pattern. So you can see I'm kind of gathering up the shirt in little tiny areas, and as I gather it, I'm adding my rubber bands. Really be generous with the rubber bands because it's having all of those areas tightly packed together that's going to give you that nice crinkle pattern. And since, again, my shirt is wet in this section, it's much easier for it to crinkle and to stay together because the shirt's wet. If it were dry, it'd be a little bit tougher. You could absolutely do it dry. But like I said, I was going to be starting to dye it directly after this, so keeping it wet wasn't really going to be that much of an issue. So I think that I'm doing the last of the rubber bands right now. Just making sure the tag's not going to get in the way. And I did a whole bunch of shirts in this this section. So I did about 13 shirts with this pattern. So I'm just showing you how I did the crinkle pattern on the one specific shirt. Okay, after I'm done with that, you're going to be soaking the shirts in a soda ash solution. So I use a 5-gallon bucket. I fill it with some water. And then I take out, this is Tulip brand soda ash. It doesn't need to specifically be Tulip brand, but you want soda ash. And what the soda ash does is it creates a basic environment for the shirts because dye is traditionally more acidic. And so if you make the shirts more basic, the dye will be attracted to the shirts better. And you'll notice that your dye will be much more vibrant and won't wash out as easily. Sometimes when people do tie-dye and they just do it on a regular shirt, it comes out and is more pastel at the end. You'll notice that the shirts that I'm going to do in this video, at the end, they turn out incredibly vibrant. And even after a bunch of washes, the shirts still keep their vibrancy and they don't fade. And part of that is because of the soaking in the soda ash bath. So I believe that each package it had for the soda ash, it was one package for a gallon. So I did 2 packages in here. Right now I'm taking all the pieces, I'm putting them in the solution. Since this solution is very basic, you want to not get it on your hands. I eventually am going to use a spoon here to kind of get the shirts to lay down into the bucket and really soak in. You saw how many shirts I had in here. I think I have about 13. And I'm just going to let them sit there. And I also did a nice hot soak. So for about 20 minutes, you're going to leave them to soak. And then when you're taking them out, like I said, very basic solutions. You want to make sure that you're wearing gloves so you're not going to affect your hands. You're not going to rinse the shirts out. It's that basic soda ash solution that the shirts have in them that's going to attract the dye. So you just want to kind of wring them out and just get any extra water out of it, but you're not going to rinse them out in the sink. You want to kind of keep it that soda ash is still in there. Okay. I'm ready to set up for my dye. And so I use the Tulip pre-made bottles that have the colors in them. Okay. I'm making my shirts in orange, yellow, and green. I was doing it for a specific event. Okay. The trick to doing really good tie-dye is to make sure that you super saturate your fabrics. Okay. You don't want to leave any white of the shirt showing the way that it is now when it's rubber banded, because the white that comes from the tie-dye happens when you unravel it and when all those creases and everything come out. So initially you want to make sure that you completely saturate your fabrics. Make sure that you are adding plenty of dye. You can even like push the tube, the bottle into the shirt a little bit to really make sure that you're getting enough dye in those areas. But you don't want to leave any white showing. Okay, so I think here I'm really trying to go through, and in those different areas, I'm really like kind of pushing in. See there, I'm separating some of the folds to really squeeze in some of the dye. Okay. And again, these shirts were wet from being soaked in the soda ash. And it's really going to make sure that that dye really soaks in. Okay. So I'm going to do a couple more trays of this pattern with the orange, the yellow, and the green. Once you have all of the shirts finished being dyed, I like to leave them for a minute or a few minutes, but also you're going to want to put them inside Ziploc bags. This is going to allow that dye to really, really soak in. And you want the shirts to kind of dry out a little bit, but you don't want them to dry too fast. Like I said, you want that dye to really soak into the fabric. So here I'm just taking each of the trays with the 2 shirts in each, and I'm just putting each pair of shirts into a Ziploc bag. If you had if you were tie dyeing and had a bunch of different colors, you'd want to maybe push them in bags separately. Sometimes you put things in the same bag and the colors are completely different. They will bleed onto each other. So make sure that you're conscious of that. So if you want to have like colors kind of together in the same bag, so while they're kind of marinating, so to speak, you won't have any color transfer from one thing to the other. So there's all of the shirts in bags. Okay. Once you have the pieces in bags, you're going to wait 24 hours before rinsing them out. So first you're going to rinse it with the rubber bands on. And that's just to get any loose dye that's in there. You can see that I'm doing this with no gloves on. I let these sit for overnight. I just let them sit till the next day. Again, since we use that soda ash solution, the dye really, really wants to stick in the shirt. So there wasn't really too much dye that was rinsing out. So after I rinse a little bit, try to get it to run a little clear, I'm going to start taking those rubber bands off. I like to save my rubber bands so that I can tie dye again. But you're going to take those rubber bands off, and then you're going to start to rinse the shirt out. Don't worry if the white of the shirt looks a little muddy. When you run it through the washer machine, it'll definitely get rid of all that extra dye that kind of is just in those white areas, and it'll brighten them right up. But I'm just rinsing them out, each of the shirts out as best I can until I see that there's no color kind of coming off of them. And this I'm just rinsing with water. You don't want it to be hot water. I say like cool water should be fine. But that's one of the shirts. You see how it's still very, very bright. It didn't really fade out. But I'm going to do each shirt, rinse them out first. And then after I get it to be kind of not so much dye coming through, then I start to take the rubber bands off, rinse them. And once everything is rinsed out, you can run it through your washing machine just as normal with some soap, just regular laundry soap. And you put all your colors together because, like I said, with that soda ash wash we did at the beginning, the dye really wants to stay in those shirts, and so it'll really only rinse out just some extra stuff that's in there. And so we're going to wash these in the wash machine, and then here you're going to see our final product. So I'm going to throw everything together in the wash machine. Throw everything in there. So I had about 13 shirts. So I did one whole load of these orange shirts, and just did regular soap, just do regular washing machine soap, and then run your washing machine as normal. And then when they come out, here is the final product. We're going to dry them also, and then here's the final product.